What's up, guys? Elijah Scheidler here, owner and supervising broker of Venue Real Estate, and welcome to episode 1 of the V3 Summit podcast. I've been wanting to jump into this for quite some time now, but haven't, which we're going to get into in just a little bit, but by way of introduction for the podcast, V3 stands for Venue, Vision, Video, and the Summit is in regards to the fingerprint graphic included within my company's branding. Everyone's fingerprint is the calling card that they leave in the lives of others that they touch. That's going to be kind of confusing at face value. Fingerprints, calling cards, what in the world are you talking about? But everyone knows what I'm talking about experientially. Think about that one teacher or one random customer, one relative or friend who said that one thing one time, and they might not even know that they touched your life, but you know, and you know who it is right now. You're thinking of them. Like, I love to hear down in the comments who these people are in your life. And if you can, I'd love to hear how they impacted your life. They left their fingerprint in your life, and their calling card bears their unique identity. I love that people have that impact in our lives. So we couldn't forget these people if we tried, and we'd resent anyone who would try to make us. Now check this out. If you look at your fingerprint, you're going to see a little swirl towards the middle, and I like to think of that as being the high point of a topographical map. Now on a topographical map, that little swirl represents a peak or a high place. And I believe that every single person has some element in their life that stands out from everyone else around them. It's like a mountain peak in a mountain range. There's a whole range of people surrounding you in varying gifts, talents, skills. But some element in your life peaks out above the rest. Maybe you're super encouraging, or maybe you're really good at science, athletics, strategic development, counseling, cooking, making people laugh. I love comedians. Whatever it is, I believe that each person has some central aspect of their life that is far elevated above the aspects of the people around them. And this is the summit of your life. And within this, then, I believe that each person then has the privilege in life of touching the lives of others around them with this aspect of their lives to help cause others to thrive and to be accelerated in their life goals. I take this thought even further. Some of the highest peaks in the world are summited by only a select few because of the risks involved in trying to make it up the mountain. The views from these peaks, though, they're some of the most rare vantage points of perspective on the whole face of the earth. People literally die attempting to summit Everest. But there's those who are driven, they're compelled with an unshakable drive to press through the dangers, oftentimes walking past the frozen bodies of other climbers who didn't survive the climb just to stand in this place of perspective. I'm one such climber. But the summit that I'm obsessed with, compelled to stand on, pressing past the dangers, is the capacity, identity, and destiny of a people. In this podcast series, I want to be able to share more about what Venue is, what I'm up to, what's central to my life's purpose, and then also to share snapshots, pictures, insights into the lives of others by celebrating people in the Bozeman community and introducing you to what they are passionate about. I absolutely love standing at the zenith of a person's passion, seeing with their perspective, taking a snapshot, diving in, and then descending the heights to share what I've seen with others. V3 Summit Podcast. Here in this first video, I'm going to be tackling a rather humbling topic for me. And Jordan Peterson has an amazing quote that says, "If you have something to say, then silence is a lie." Stop and think about that for a second. Peterson quotes, as usual, kind of deep. If you have something to say, then silence is a lie. As I was hanging out with my friend David recently, he was sharing with me about a man who wound up getting arrested in the Middle East and then thrown into prison as a result of pursuing his life's vision of helping establish freedom and equality throughout that region of the Middle East. He celebrated how encouraging this man's life was in the authentic expression of his unswerving purpose to pursue his heart's passion beyond personal discomfort, safety and that he wanted to be like him. Now, in communication that leaked out of this man's jail cell, he was proactive to encourage his friends and family to not lose heart in a situation, and that the best thing that they could do to honor his situation was to live in such a way that upheld their life's calling. It's pretty tough to argue with someone who challenges you to live out of your life's calling and destiny when they're being unjustly imprisoned for living out of theirs. Now, that's some pretty gnarly street cred. Now, the thing that hit me the hardest about this is that I realized that I haven't been living as genuinely. If you have something to say, then silence is a lie. We access lies for two primary reasons. There could be more. Here's two. The first is to get something that we want, and the second is to avoid something that we don't want. Like I said, tackling a rather humbling topic for me here in this first episode, but it's super important because I can't move forward speaking freely in the podcast to follow without addressing my lie. My lie is I've been silent within the things that I have to say. I mean, the biggest motivation for sure in remaining silent has been to avoid something that I don't want. And one of the primary reasons that I began Venue Real Estate in the first place is because of deeply held beliefs about business practices and our community as a whole. As I began to share those thoughts with people around me as I was starting my business, some of the feedback that I received was that if I lived out of these stated beliefs, my phone would stop ringing, my business would die, I'd ruin my business reputation here in Bozeman, and I wouldn't be able to recover. Now, very pointed thoughts. Unfortunately, while I didn't think that that was true at the time, and I still don't, I allowed this seed of fear to fester and grow in me to the point where I backed off my vision and purpose and began drifting off course. Small changes don't make all that much of a difference in the short run, but within the long game, being 2 degrees off course at the beginning of a 1,000-mile journey is going to result in being hundreds of miles off at your finish line. This last year, I found that it'll lead you to make some crazy decisions and betray your true self. But I found that fear and faith, they're only separated by a hair's breadth. They both believe equally that what is unseen is going to come to pass. But an addiction to safety will try to convince you that fear is a virtue, suspicion is discernment, and that indifference is the better part of valor. Now, what I've seen by faith is way too beautiful to not pursue, and I'm more afraid of not finding out what would happen if I lived out of the integrity of my vision than to stay safe within predictable success. Courage isn't the absence of fear. No, it's knowing that it might hurt and doing it anyway. Unfortunately, stupidity has the same mentality, which is why life is hard. The seeds of vision, though, are way more powerful than the concrete outcomes of fear to hold it down. Fear has killed way more dreams than failure. And the disheartening thing about this to me is that a lot of the dreams that would have had massive impacts on society, had the visionaries carried them out more courageously and not been stupid, died within their fear. Now, my confession is, not my criticism, my confession is that I've been falling back into the stupidity of cowardice, but this is my moment of courage. This is who I am. I'm a pioneer of thought and passionate about the potential of people's destinies synergized for multiplied effectiveness. Now, we're mountaineers who've climbed Everest over and over and over, test themselves to see if they can summit the mountain without oxygen, to press themselves past their own vertical limit of their personal capacity. I love pressing into the unexplored of other people's motivations, their fears and desires, way past the point of no return to see what's possible within community. I do this with myself all the time, but it's another thing to do this in a context of community. Those who gave me the input as I was launching out into my business aren't incorrect. There's lots of casualties spread along the side of the path forward into cultural transformations. Absolutely true. Most people don't intentionally map pathways into these rocky heights full of giant issues. But what I've found is that the beauty the perspective, the insights that I get to receive as a gift in these mountaintop places of community perspective, it invigorates me to live life sustainably down in the Fertile Valley. Now, if you haven't noticed, there's a few people gasping for breath, trying to survive here, to live sustainably in the valley. And this isn't even us trying to pass the vertical limits of what's possible as a community and achieving new heights together. We're gasping to survive here in the valley. Now, you have to be careful how you hear what I just said. Now, it's easy to listen to my words and to think that you heard what I said. Offense, complaining, fault finding, which are on the rise here in the Bozeman community, they have the unfortunate capacity of helping us to hear things that people never said. A person living with offense in their marriage listens to their spouse say, "Hey, hon, you're looking great today," but hears them say, "You didn't look good yesterday." Hear what I'm saying. Hear me. As a community, we're gasping to survive here in the valley. Now, it's hard to advocate for the needs of people that you care for without offending people in the community as a whole. Now, if you advocate for those who are moving into our area, locals are tempted with offense. If you advocate for those who can't afford housing, you'll wrestle with being offended by cash buyers. If you advocate for the needs of youth, you're going to be offended by the elderly. You advocate for racial minorities, you'll be tempted by offense towards racial majorities. Personally, I found this to be one of my greatest risks within my longing to summit the identity, desire, and destiny of a people, an entire community, and to see with the elevation of its perspective. I'm tempted by this myself, but my unshakable obsession for reaching this summit and seeing with the increased view of a people's perspective, though, keeps me climbing, listening, and working for understanding. Now, what I've been seeing and running up and down, back and forth, into and out of the backcountry of people's insights, like an emotional Sherpa, is there are a lot of people panting for breath in our community, and it's a longing to belong. Now, there's a huge difference between being welcome and belonging. Now, let those two words sit in your mind and heart for just a second. They are super close. They're related, but they are not the same. Now, the fastest way to feel the difference between the two, to embody their meaning, is that welcome is the word written on the doormats that pave the way into a house, and belonging is the word that's written on the hearts of people at home beyond the doorway. Now, you can be welcomed into a person's house without having access to the same comforts and confidence of those who move about within the house as those who belong in this home. Now, think about the different spaces where you're welcome and where you belong. Now, while we're super clear where these boundary lines exist within our houses and our person, where these lines get super fuzzy and complex is in a context of community. Again, we have a bunch of people here in the Bozeman area who are gasping for breath, trying to survive here on the valley floor, longing for belonging. Now, here's the thing. This isn't a locals thing. This isn't a newcomer thing. This isn't anything driven by any indicator of socioeconomic demographics. This is a human beings in relationship thing. Take a look at these two snapshots with me from differing perspectives of summits on either side of the valley. People who've enjoyed generations of belonging in this region are wrestling with finding exit signs marking the doorways where they've come and gone for years as their home. This could be a figurative result of leaving a familiar way of life behind as culture in Bozeman irresistibly shifts and grows into the future, or it can be literal. As longstanding residents, they pack up their homes and move away out of a sense of losing their connection to belonging. Now, on the other summit, though, this breathless panting can also be a result of people entering Bozeman across the welcome mat that's laid out at the entrance to community structures, but being perpetually frustrated in their longing to be a part of the Bozeman's evolving autobiography written by community. Now, there's lots of people who are captivated by the story of life in Bozeman, But they realize that they don't recognize their identity as a character within the story. And if they do recognize their identity in the story that's being told, it's as a villain or the unwelcome homewrecker that's seducing people away from stable home life through discontent. If you have to look over both shoulders before you tell people where you're from, and then saying it out loud feels like your entrance into an AA program, your heart is wrestling with feeling like it belongs here in Bozeman as your home, and I'm not okay with that. Neither am I okay with locals being locked in a never-ending process of grief as they're forced to watch the culture that they love expire in front of them through a death of 1,000 cuts. It's visceral, emotional statements and language. Yes, I know, absolutely, and intentionally used, because ignoring wounds and pain, it doesn't bring healing or comfort. Most often, ignoring them leads to more damage and pain. Now, don't forget, I'm an emotional Sherpa. I run up and down these emotional summits all day long, and I love serving climbers by carrying the gear necessary to help people reach the summits that they dream of climbing. Hopes deferred make the heart sick. And as I've journeyed into people's hopes, I've gotten to see both what their hearts long for and what makes them heart sick. Now, my heart longs to see the destinies and longings of every person fulfilled, because in this, it wells up to an overflow of passion, energy, and resource in their lives to pour into the lives of those that are around them. Now, I talked with someone a while back about these things, and their response to me was, I think you're developing vision for something that people don't want or need. Me and my friends in my community, we are doing fine. Again, here's where my heart beats. I want to see every single person thrive within their destiny here in the Bozeman community. Lower, middle, upper class, independently wealthy, student, resident, visitor, person who moved here yesterday, 35 years ago, or been here for 7 generations, man, woman, child, ethnicities of all kinds. I want to see every single person thrive. Now, realize I'm painting a portrait of a people with super broad strokes. If you're wrestling with listening to this, feeling like I'm painting you or myself into a philosophical corner, here's my challenge for us as a community. Would you say that Bozeman is at its peak performance? The whole city. We're not suboptimal in any respect as a community, and we're firing on all cylinders. Personally, I would assess that we're not at peak performance. We're doing a lot of things amazingly well as a community. Don't miss this. Don't miss that. I don't want to pull anyone down into the mud, but if we're bogged down in the mud as a community in some areas of moving forward, I want to be honest about the fact that there's people hurting and struggling with hope. Now, why I'm calling myself out, I'm calling myself out, hear me, is that I have a ton of hope for our community. And by remaining silent, I'm withholding hope from the people that I'm meant to encourage. I see the difficulties, absolutely, yeah. And they're way beyond my pay grade to solve by myself. Honest confession, I have very little insight into personally how to solve them through specified expertise. But I know that we can move forward into solutions together. Being a leader isn't defined by having all the answers, but synergizing people and destinies together for emergent results. I've seen what Bozeman's capable of. The best way to get a Bozemanite to accomplish the impossible is to tell them that they can't do something. We'll hand off our craft beer to a buddy, say, watch this, go run 19.2 miles with 6,800 feet of elevation gain, turn that thing into a race, and then the rest of the world is going to stand around applying to be a part of it for years, and then celebrate when they can finally pay to be a part of something impossible. Welcome to the Ridge Run. It's what Bozemanites do. It's what we inspire. We pioneer a way into the insane and make it reasonable for others to follow in our footsteps. It's what pioneers do. They blaze a trail into the unknown because their vision of what the future can look like is way stronger than a desire to stay safe in the equilibrium of status quo. Newsflash. Bozeman's equilibrium is already imbalanced. Speaking openly about known issues in our community isn't rocking the boat. Boat's already getting thrown around by winds and the waves of change. Guys, what do you do with a truck that's stuck in the mud? Do you firewall it and just keep spinning your tires faster and faster? Do you do more of what you just did before you got into the mud? Nope. You let off the accelerator, slow down. Maybe let a little pressure out of your tires. Get a wider contact patch. Get some people around you. Start rocking you back and forth. So keep traction engaged. Get on that accelerator and work with the rocking. And before you know it, you're going to be out of the rut, back up on the road and moving forward. Speaking openly about known issues is calling very capable, skilled adventurers of thought to spring into action, put a shoulder to the bumper, and then help guide our community forward through stormy times and on towards our destiny and pioneering a way forward into the impossible. Here's my hope and my confidence for our community, and it's 100% oriented in the confidence of Bozeman's identity. Not only do I believe that we have innovative solutions for our community to thrive together, but what we innovate will be so powerful, so effective. Our social innovation will benefit the rest of the world to help solve their impossible situations too. Total Bozeman confidence. You can't export, though, what you don't develop as a sustainable commodity at home. Bozeman's strength is a result of its residents, and our personal strength resides in Bozeman. Belonging is identity forged together with trust through the heat of adversity. When we know who we are and whose we are, we belong. We're not afraid of losing the past or pressing into the future because our greatest treasure is with us in the people that we love and trust to care for us. Even if this video is for just one person, it's worth it. If you're in pain, if you're wrestling with having hope for yourself or others around you, you're not alone. Hope is the belief that the future can be better than the present and that we have the necessary resource to make it a reality. If you're watching this video, though, and you say, man, I'm not discouraged and I have tons of vision from where we're heading as a community, I would be super excited to hear what you have to say and to help promote that. Here's what I believe. Bozeman's best days, they're yet to come. And we've had some great days, so it takes a lot of imagination to think of better days, and that's where the climb starts. Very often what hamstrings us from pressing into a hope-filled future with increased success is past success that we're afraid to let go of. Now, I've seen what we can do from where we've peaked out in the past, but we have no idea what we're capable of pressing into in the future. I want to discover what this is, and the only way to summit out in this peak performance is that we do it together. I'm sorry that I've been lying. I've been silent too long. I have a lot to say, and this podcast is where I'm stepping into the truth. I love you, Bozeman. I look forward to the climb with you all. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next video.